The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers at exactly 11:47 p.m., crashing against the concrete floor of my garage with a sound that echoed through the silence. Through the thin walls of our split-level house, I could hear my wife Leah and our daughter Madison, who had been gone for 16 years, arguing once more, their voices piercing the air. "Mom says you're just taking up space," Madison's voice carried through the night air, dripping with teenage venom. "She deserves a man who actually knows what to do with her." I wiped my hands on an old shop rag and stared at the underside of my 1998 Ford pickup. If Leah wanted a handyman, I had a whole toolbox. If she wanted a lover, well, she should have shopped at a better store than the clearance rack she married 20 years ago. Cedar Bluff, Michigan had always been the kind of town where everyone knew everyone else's business before they knew it themselves. Tonight felt different, though. The streetlights cast longer shadows, and even Mrs. Greeley's porch light, usually blazing like a beacon for all the neighborhood gossip, seemed dimmer than usual. My construction business had taken me from nothing to something respectable. While Leah climbed the legal ladder from paralegal to attorney, I built houses, fixed problems, and kept my mouth shut. The irony wasn't lost on me that I spent my days creating homes while mine crumbled around me. The arguing inside stopped abruptly. Car doors slammed, engines started. By the time I crawled out from under the truck, taillights were disappearing down Maple Street. My phone buzzed. "Extending my girls' trip by a week. Don't wait up." Elahi. I stared at the message for a full minute. Leah had left 3 days ago for what she called a much-needed break with the girls in Chicago. Funny thing about lies, they have a particular smell, like milk left too long in the sun. My fingers moved across the screen. "Take your time. My attorney finds these stories fascinating." The response came faster than a NASCAR pit stop. "Call me now." I turned off my phone and went inside. The house felt hollow, like someone had sucked all the air out through a straw. Madison's bedroom door was closed, music thumping behind it loud enough to wake the neighbors 3 blocks over. I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of bills Leah had left for me to handle. 20 years of marriage, and I was still handling her messes. My phone rang 16 times over the next hour. I counted. The next morning, I did what any reasonable man would do when his wife extends a mysterious trip. I checked our joint bank account. 3 withdrawals in the past week, each for exactly $200. Cash. The kind of money you spend when you don't want a paper trail. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I drove to Rudy's boxing gym, the only place in Cedar Bluff where a man could think without someone asking questions. Rudy Martinez had been training fighters for 30 years, and his gym smelled like honest sweat and broken dreams. It was my sanctuary. "You look like someone ran over your dog," Rudy said, wrapping my hands for a session with the heavy bag. "What's eating you, Jake?" "My wife's extending her girls' trip." I threw a jab that would have made Mike Tyson proud. "Funny thing is, her best friend Cassie is right here in town." Rudy's weathered face didn't change expression. "Sometimes the truth hits harder than any punch I ever taught you." I spent an hour beating the stuffing out of that bag, but it didn't make the knot in my stomach any smaller. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done in 20 years of marriage. I looked through Leah's things. Her laptop was password protected, but she'd always been terrible with technology. Her password was Madison's birthday, the same one she used for everything. What I found made my hands shake. Text messages. Dozens of them. Not to her girlfriends in Chicago, but to someone named Eli, someone who called her beautiful and amazing, and other words that made my stomach turn. Someone who knew intimate details about our marriage, our finances, our problems. Someone who was supposed to be just a work friend. The messages went back months. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even a jewelry purchase I'd never seen, all while I was working 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat. But the worst part wasn't the affair. It was the messages about me. "Jake's so clueless," one read. "He actually thinks I'm working late." "Can't wait to be free of this," read another. "He's dragging me down." The final message sent just 2 hours ago. "He's getting suspicious. We need to be more careful." I closed the laptop and sat in our bedroom, my bedroom now, staring at the family photos on the dresser. 20 years of birthdays, anniversaries, vacations, all of it a lie. My phone buzzed. Leah again. "Please call me. We need to talk." I had a better idea. I drove to the address I'd found in Eli's messages, a cheap apartment complex on the wrong side of Cedar Bluff. the kind of place where people minded their own business and asked no questions. Leah's silver Honda was parked in spot 23, right where it had been for the past 3 days according to the timestamps on her messages. I parked across the street and waited. At 6:30 p.m., they emerged from apartment 23B. Eli looked exactly like I'd imagined, tall, thin, with the kind of smile that sold used cars and broken promises. He had his arm around my wife like he owned her. They drove away in his red Camaro, probably heading to dinner at some restaurant I'd never be able to afford. I walked over to his car. The knife from my toolbox made quick work of all 4 tires. Then I left a note under his windshield wiper. "Hope you enjoyed the ride. I always do." Mrs. Henderson from apartment 24A was watching from her window. She had her phone out, probably taking pictures. "Good. Let the whole town know Jake Morrison wasn't going down without a fight." My phone rang as I drove home. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Leah's voice was shrill enough to crack glass. "I could ask you the same question," I said, keeping my voice steady. "How's Chicago?" Silence. "We need to talk," she said finally. "We sure do. But not tonight. Tonight, I'm busy planning." I hung up and drove home through the dark streets of Cedar Bluff, past the houses I'd helped build, past the lives I'd helped create. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. My phone buzzed one more time. "We need to talk. Now." I smiled for the first time in months and typed back, "Talk to your lawyer. I'm done listening." The next morning brought rain and revelation in equal measure. I woke up to find 17 missed calls from Leah, 4 from Madison, and one very interesting voicemail from Cassie Williams, Leah's supposed best friend. "Jake, honey, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Leah's really upset, and I'm worried about you both. Call me back, okay?" Cassie had been in our lives for 15 years, ever since she started working as Leah's assistant at the law firm. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday, brought casseroles when people got sick, and somehow always knew everyone's business before they did. I'd always found her helpful nature a little too convenient. I called her back while drinking my morning coffee. "Oh, Jake, thank goodness," she gushed. "I've been so worried. Leah called me crying last night. She says you're acting crazy." "Funny thing, Cassie. Leah told me she was with you in Chicago." The pause lasted exactly 3 seconds too long. "Well, I mean, she was supposed to be, but then she decided to extend her trip with some other friends. You know how these things go." "No, I really don't. Why don't you explain it to me?" Another pause. "Jake, I think you should talk to Leah directly. This isn't really my business." "You're right. It isn't." I hung up and added Cassie to my growing list of problems to solve. The boxing gym was my first stop. Rudy took one look at my face and shook his head. You found something?" he said. It wasn't a question. "I found everything." I told him about the messages, the apartment, the lies stacked on top of lies. Rudy listened without interrupting, the way good coaches do. "So what's your plan?" he asked when I finished. "I'm still working on that part." "Let me give you some advice, Jake. I've seen a lot of fights in my time. The guy who wins isn't always the strongest or the fastest. He's the one who thinks 3 moves ahead while his opponent is still figuring out move 1. "You're saying I should be smart about this." "I'm saying you should be smarter than they are. And from what you've told me, that shouldn't be too hard." I spent 2 hours working out, letting the physical exhaustion clear my head. When I left, I had the beginning of a plan. My next stop was the Cedar Bluff Public Library. The reference librarian, Mrs. Patterson, had helped me research building codes for years. Today, I needed a different kind of research. "I need to know about Michigan divorce law," I told her, "specifically what happens to assets when one spouse commits adultery." She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. 20 minutes later, I had a stack of printouts that made for very interesting reading. Michigan was a no-fault divorce state, which meant Leah's affair wouldn't automatically give me an advantage in court, but it would matter for other things, like spousal support, asset division, and custody of Madison. More importantly, it would matter in the court of public opinion, and in a town like Cedar Bluff that was often more powerful than any legal ruling. I drove home to find Leah's car in the driveway. She was sitting at the kitchen table, still wearing the same clothes she'd had on yesterday. Her eyes were red, her makeup smeared. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm listening." "What you did last night was unacceptable. Eli could have called the police." "But he didn't. Interesting." She stood up, pacing to the window. "This isn't like you, Jake. You're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared." She spun around, and for the first time in years, I saw real fear in her eyes. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You want to destroy our marriage? Fine, but I'm not going quietly. Jake, please, we can work this out. It doesn't have to be like this. I laughed, and the sound surprised both of us. Work it out? Leah, you've been planning this for months. The secret bank account withdrawals, the lies about where you've been, the messages about how clueless I am. You think I'm stupid? Her face went pale. You went through my phone? I went through everything. 20 years of marriage, and you threw it away for some guy who drives a Camaro and lives in a cheap apartment. At least have better taste in your midlife crisis. It's not like that. Then explain it to me. Explain how you've been meeting him for months while I worked overtime to pay for Madison's college fund. Explain how you've been lying to my face every single day. Explain how you got Cassie to cover for you. The mention of Cassie made her flinch. Cassie doesn't know anything. Really? Because she seemed awfully nervous when I called her this morning. Leah sat down heavily, her head in her hands. Jake, I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, and now we deal with the consequences. What do you want? I leaned back in my chair, studying her. 20 years ago, she'd been the most beautiful woman in Cedar Bluff. Smart, ambitious, full of dreams. Now she looked tired, desperate, ordinary. I want you to understand something, I said finally. For 20 years I've been the nice guy, the one who fixed things, who kept quiet, who let you shine. But nice guys finish last, don't they? So I've decided to stop being nice. What does that mean? It means you're about to find out what happens when you push a patient man too far. She started to say something, but Madison walked through the front door, backpack slung over her shoulder, earbuds in her ears. She looked at both of us and rolled her eyes. Are you two fighting again? God, this is so embarrassing. Your mother has something she needs to tell you, I said. Leah shot me a look that could have melted steel. Jake, don't. Tell her, or I will. Madison pulled out her earbuds, suddenly interested. Tell me what? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Your mother's been having an affair, I said finally. That's where she's really been for the past 3 days. Madison's face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, anger, and finally something that looked almost like relief. I knew it, she said quietly. I mean, I didn't know, but I knew something was wrong. Leah was crying now, ugly tears that made her mascara run. Maddie, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this. But you wanted me to find out eventually? Madison's voice was sharp, angry. What were you going to do? Just leave us. It's complicated. No, it's not. Madison looked at me with something that might have been respect. Dad, I'm sorry I said all that stuff yesterday. I didn't know. You couldn't have known. Your mother's been lying to both of us. Leah stood up abruptly. I can't do this right now. I need some air. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. This isn't over, Jake. No, it's not. It's just getting started. After she left, Madison and I sat in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes. So, what happens now? She asked finally. Now we figure out how to move forward. Are you getting divorced? Probably. She nodded, processing this. Will I have to choose sides? You'll have to choose what's right, but I won't make you choose between your parents. Even after what she did? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was growing up, becoming her own person, dealing with problems no 16-year-old should have to handle. Even after what she did, she's still your mother. Madison hugged me then, the first real hug she'd given me in years. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. But as I held my daughter, I was already thinking 3 moves ahead, just like Rudy had taught me. Leah wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that I'd been watching from the sidelines for 20 years, and I'd learned all the rules. The real game was just beginning. 3 days passed before Leah came home again. 3 days during which I did my homework. I hired Tommy Rodriguez, not exactly a private investigator, but a guy who knew how to use a camera and keep his mouth shut. Tommy owed me a favor from when I'd helped him out of a jam with his contractor's license. Now it was time to collect. I need documentation, I told him over coffee at Mel's Diner. Times, dates, locations, everything legal and above board. Tommy nodded. How long you want me to follow them? Until I have enough to bury them both. While Tommy did his work, I did mine. I changed all our shared passwords, moved money from our joint savings into my business account, and had a very interesting conversation with my lawyer, Bill Stevens. Adultery doesn't give you much advantage in Michigan divorce court, Bill warned me, but it can affect spousal support if you can prove she used marital assets to fund the affair. What about the house? Depends. You bought it before you were married, right? But you've both been paying the mortgage. She hasn't paid a dime toward the mortgage in 5 years. I've got the bank records to prove it. Bill smiled. Now that's useful information. I also had a long conversation with Madison about her college fund. Turned out Leah had been promising her things I'd never agreed to. Private school, a new car for her 18th birthday, a European graduation trip. Where did she think the money was coming from? I asked. Madison shrugged. She said you'd figure it out. You always do. That night, Leah finally came home. She'd been staying at Cassie's house, according to the neighborhood gossip network. She walked into the kitchen like she still lived there, like nothing had changed. We need to discuss custody arrangements, she announced without preamble. Do we? I've talked to a lawyer. I want joint custody of Madison and half of everything else. I looked up from the newspaper I'd been reading. That's interesting. What does your lawyer say about adultery? Michigan is a no-fault state. True, but Cedar Bluff isn't a no-fault town. She sat down across from me, trying to look confident. What's that supposed to mean? It means everyone knows, Leah. Mrs. Henderson saw me at Eli's apartment. Mrs. Greeley saw you coming home at 3 a.m. last week. Cassie's been asking around, trying to control the story, but the damage is done. Her face went pale. You've been talking to people about our private business? I haven't said a word. I don't need to. This town has eyes and ears, and you've been careless. Jake, please. We can handle this quietly, between ourselves. Like you handled your affair quietly? She flinched. That's different. No, it's not. You made this public the moment you started sneaking around. Now you get to live with the consequences. My phone buzzed. A text from Tommy. Got what you need. Check your email. I opened my laptop and showed Leah the screen. Photos of her and Eli at restaurants, hotels, even the jewelry store where she'd bought him a watch with our money. 23 separate occasions over the past 4 months, I said. Tommy's very thorough. Leah stared at the photos, her hands shaking. You had me followed? I had you documented. There's a difference. This is harassment. This is evidence, and it's all perfectly legal. She stood up, pacing again. It was her tell. She always paced when she was cornered. What do you want, Jake? Money? The house? Just tell me what you want. I want you to understand something. For 20 years, you've treated me like I was stupid, like I didn't notice when you stayed late at work, when you started buying new clothes, when you stopped wearing your wedding ring. You thought I was too dumb or too weak to do anything about it. That's not true, isn't it? You told Eli I was clueless. You told Madison I was taking up space. You made me the joke of my own marriage. Tears were streaming down her face now. Jake, I'm sorry. I never meant... You meant every word. And now you're going to learn what happens when you underestimate someone. I closed the laptop and stood up. You want to discuss custody? Here's my offer. You can see Madison whenever she wants to see you. You can take whatever clothes and personal items you brought into this marriage. Everything else stays with me. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I laughed, and again the sound surprised both of us. Fair would have been you asking for a divorce before you started screwing around. Fair would have been you being honest about your feelings instead of lying for months. Fair would have been you not using our money to buy gifts for your boyfriend. I'll fight you in court. With what lawyer? The one who fired you? Her face went white. What are you talking about? Check your email. She grabbed her phone, fingers flying over the screen. I watched her face change as she read. How did you? Anonymous tip to your boss about some irregularities in your billing hours. Turns out those long lunches with Eli weren't exactly work-related, were they? You got me fired? You got yourself fired. I just made sure the right people knew about it. She sat down hard, like someone had cut her strings. Jake, please, I need that job. You should have thought about that before you decided to use company time for personal business. My phone rang. Madison's ringtone. Dad, can you pick me up from school? Something's happened. What kind of something? Someone posted about Mom online. Everyone's talking about it. I looked at Leah, who had gone completely pale. I'll be right there. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Jake, wait, Leah called after me. We're not done talking. Yes, we are. You can let yourself out. The drive to Cedar Bluff High School took 10 minutes, but it felt like an hour. Madison was waiting by the flagpole, backpack clutched to her chest, eyes red from crying. What happened? I asked as she got in the truck. Someone shared screenshots of Mom's Facebook posts, the ones where she was supposedly in Chicago, but the location tags show she was here in town. and there are photos of her with some guy. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. What kind of photos? Nothing too bad, but bad enough. They're calling her a liar and a cheat. They're calling you... She trailed off. What are they calling me? A loser who couldn't keep his wife happy. The knot in my stomach turned to ice. Madison, I need you to understand something. What your mother did was wrong, but that doesn't mean you have to choose sides. I already have chosen sides, Dad. I chose the parent who didn't lie to me. That night, after Madison went to bed, I sat in my workshop behind the house thinking. The tools hung on their pegboard, everything in its place, everything serving a purpose. I'd built this workshop with my own hands, just like I'd built my business, just like I'd built my life. Leah had tried to tear it all down, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I smiled and typed back, You're right, it's just getting started. Tomorrow I'd visit Eli. Time for a man-to-man conversation about respect, consequences, and what happens when you mess with another man's family. The real fun was about to begin. Eli Morrison, I'd learned his last name from Tommy's research, worked at Cedar Bluff Auto Sales, a lot that sold cars with more miles than promises. I drove there Thursday morning, after Madison left for school and before the rush. The lot was mostly empty, except for a few salespeople drinking coffee and checking their phones. Eli was easy to spot, tall, thin, wearing a suit that had seen better days and a smile that had sold 1,000 lemons. Can I help you? He asked, walking over with his hand extended. You already have, I said, not shaking his hand. I'm Jake Morrison, Leah's husband. His smile faltered, but he recovered quickly. I think there's been some misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is you thinking I wouldn't find out. He glanced around, likely looking for backup. Look, Mr. Morrison, I don't want any trouble. Then you shouldn't have slept with my wife. It's not what you think, I laughed. It never is it? Let me tell you what I think, Eli. I think you're a small-time loser who saw an opportunity with a married woman. I think you fed her lines about how special she was, how she deserved better. His face reddened. You don't know anything about me. I know you live in a cheap apartment, drive a car you can't afford, and convince my wife to buy you presents with our money. You go after married women because single women can see right through you. That's enough, he said, taking a step forward. No, it's not enough. You made this personal when you decided to involve my daughter, when you convinced my wife to lie to her. You never thought about the consequences, never imagined the husband might not be as passive as you thought? I showed him the photos Tommy had taken. 23 dates, Eli. Hotels, restaurants, a jewelry store. All documented, time-stamped, legal evidence. His face went white. What do you want? I want you to understand something. My wife made her choice. She's losing her job, her marriage, and her reputation. But you? You're just getting started. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. I've spent the week learning everything about you, your credit score, your employment history, your little tax problem. He took a step back. How did you? Public records, Eli. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look. Did you know your boss doesn't know about your tax issues or your harassment complaint? That was dismissed. Dismissed, not disproven. There's a difference. I put my phone away and stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. Stay away from my wife, my daughter, and my family. Find somewhere else to conduct your business. If I see you near them, all that information I've gathered goes public. You can't do this. Watch me. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Eli, next time you try to seduce a married woman, maybe pick one whose husband knows how to use Google. Later, I got a call from Cassie Williams. She wanted to meet at Mel's Diner. I agreed, curious to hear her story. She was already there, sitting in a booth, looking nervous. Cassie had always been attractive in a wholesome way. Today, she looked tired. Jake, thank you for coming. I know this must be difficult. Which part? My wife's affair, losing her job, or finding out her best friend has been lying to me for months? She flinched. I never lied to you. You covered for her. Same thing. I was trying to protect everyone involved. Including yourself? She looked confused. What do you mean? I leaned back, studying her. Cassie, in all the years I've known you, you've never been able to keep a secret. Remember when you accidentally told Madison about her surprise party? That's different. Is it? Because I'm wondering how someone who can't keep small secrets managed to keep this one for months. Her face was getting red. Jake, I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm saying it outright. You didn't just know about the affair, you helped orchestrate it. That's ridiculous. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot. Text message from Leah to Eli dated 3 months ago. Cassie says you asked about me. She thinks we'd be good together. The color drained from her face. Another one from 2 months ago. Cassie offered to cover for me if anyone asks where I am. Jake, I can explain. And my personal favorite from last month. Cassie says Jake's too stupid to figure it out. She was shaking now. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Cassie? Were you trying to break up my marriage for fun, or did you have a more specific reason? She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. I already knew. 5 years ago, when Leah got promoted to attorney, you applied for the same position. Didn't get it, did you? And when I recommended against hiring you for my construction company, because I don't mix business with friendship, that must have stung too. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been watching us for years, waiting for a chance to get even. When Leah started complaining about our marriage, you saw an opportunity. You introduced her to Eli, encouraged the affair, helped them hide it. You thought you'd get to watch my life fall apart while you played the supportive friend. Tears were streaming down her face now. Jake, please. The problem with revenge, Cassie, is that it usually backfires. You wanted to destroy my marriage. Congratulations, you succeeded. But you also destroyed your friendship with Leah, your reputation in this town, and any chance you had of staying out of this mess. What are you going to do? I stood up and threw a $5 bill on the table. I'm going to let you explain to everyone why you did it, starting with Leah. That night, Madison and I had dinner alone. She'd been quiet since the incident at school, processing everything that had happened. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean, are you happy that Mom's gone? That everything's falling apart? I thought about it for a long moment. I'm not happy that our family is broken, Madison, but I'm not sorry that the truth came out. Do you still love her? Another hard question. I love the woman I married 20 years ago, but that woman's been gone for a while now. What happens next? We figure out how to move forward, together. She nodded, seeming to accept that answer. Later that night, after Madison went to bed, I sat in my workshop thinking about Rudy's advice. Think 3 moves ahead. I'd exposed the affair, cost Leah her job, confronted Eli, and revealed Cassie's role in the whole mess. But I wasn't done yet. My phone buzzed. A text from Leah. Cassie told me what you said. We need to talk. I typed back, tomorrow, noon, the house. Come alone. It was time for the final conversation. Leah arrived at exactly noon, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes red and puffy. She looked nothing like the confident attorney who had walked out of our marriage 3 weeks ago. Jake, we need to stop this, she said before she'd even closed the door. It's gone too far. Has it? You got me fired. You threatened Eli. You turned Cassie against me. What more do you want? I gestured to the kitchen table. Sit down. Let's talk about what I want. She sat reluctantly, like a defendant taking the witness stand. 20 years ago, you married a construction worker with big dreams. I worked 2 jobs to put you through law school, took care of Madison, built this house for us. Jake, I'm not finished. I watched you become everything you dreamed of. And I was proud. Even when you started looking at me like I was an embarrassment, stopped wearing your ring, stayed late at work every night. She cried, but I kept going. I thought we could fix it, but you didn't want to fix anything. You wanted out. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like. Tell me about the first time you met Eli for lunch. The first time you lied about where you were. The first time you bought him a present with our money. She couldn't meet my eyes. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. You hurt me, Madison, our family, and you did it all while pretending everything was fine. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. You knew exactly what you wanted. You wanted out, but kept the benefits, the house, security, reputation. You wanted it all. That's not fair. Fair? Fair would have been asking for counseling, telling me you were unhappy before sleeping with someone else, treating me with respect after 20 years. She sobbed. Jake, please, we can fix this. We can start over. No, we can't. You made your choice. Now you live with it. What about Madison? She needs both parents. She needs parents she can trust. I'm the only one who qualifies. You're turning her against me. I didn't have to. You did that yourself when you lied to her. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. Dad, there's something on social media about Mom. It's bad. I opened Facebook and found the post. Leah and Eli's photos, restaurants, hotels, the jewelry store. The post had been shared 43 times in an hour. Cedar Bluff was small, and this was the biggest scandal in years. "Oh, God," Leah whispered, looking at her phone. "Everyone's seen it. Everyone already knew. Now they have proof. Who did this? Does it matter? You posted those photos yourself. You created the evidence." She put her head in her hands. "I can't show my face in this town." "Then maybe you shouldn't." She looked up, vulnerable. "Jake, what do you want me to do? I'll do anything to fix this." "There's nothing to fix. It's over." "Our marriage?" "Everything. Your career, your reputation, your relationship with Madison. You burned it all for a guy who sells used cars and lives in a cheap apartment. I know I made mistakes. You didn't make mistakes. You made choices, and choices have consequences." She paced. "So what happens now? Now you figure out your new life, without me, without the house, without this community. And Madison? She'll decide what kind of relationship she wants with you, but it won't be the same." "Jake, please, don't do this." "I'm not doing anything. This is what you did. I'm not cleaning up your mess." She followed me to the door, still crying. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know. Maybe Eli or Cassie will help. You'll figure it out like everyone else." "I don't deserve this." "You're right. You deserve worse." She walked out, and I watched her drive away, probably for the last time. Madison came home an hour later. "Everyone at school is talking about it." "I'm sorry you have to deal with this." "I'm not. I'm glad people know the truth." "Madison?" "No, Dad. I'm tired of pretending. She lied to us both, and now everyone knows." That evening, I sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools and projects that had always brought me peace. My phone had been ringing all day, reporters, neighbors, old friends who'd heard the news. I'd ignored them all. Tomorrow, I'd start the divorce proceedings. I'd sell the house and find something smaller for Madison and me. I'd rebuild my life from the ground up, just like I'd done 20 years ago when I started my business. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Peace. Leah had wanted to destroy our marriage quietly, privately, while keeping all the benefits and none of the blame. Instead, she'd lost everything: her job, her reputation, her family, her future in Cedar Bluff. I'd spent 20 years being the nice guy, the one who fixed problems and kept quiet. But nice guys don't always finish last. Sometimes they just take longer to get started. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from an unknown number. "You won." I deleted the message without responding. This wasn't about winning or losing. This was about consequences, about truth, about what happens when you push a patient man too far. I turned off the lights in my workshop and walked back to the house, where Madison was doing homework at the kitchen table, our kitchen table now. "Dad?" she said without looking up. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For not letting her get away with it." I kissed the top of her head and went upstairs to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new projects to build, but tonight I slept better than I had in years.